It's authentic.
When we come to your school, we all in the stands with you.
It's inspirational.
Honeybees is more than just about the field show. It's about inspiring young women.
It's groundbreaking.
It was like, oh my gosh, there's a girl trying out for drum major, all this da-da-da-da-da.
From the campus to the community, we cover everything HBCU. It's HBCU 101. What's up, everyone, and welcome to HBCU 101. I am your host, Jaleel Thurman. HBCU 101 is a show that will take you all over the nation, give you the ins and outs of what's happening at HBCUs and a little taste of that HBCU flavor. On today's episode, you're actually in for a show. We're sitting down with Chief Visionary Officer Brandon Frame from The Black Man Can Incorporated, and I'm gonna give you a little taste of some HBCU homecomings, all right? But before we get there, let's see what's good in the hood with our HBCUs.
Okay, thanks, Jaleel. You know, we are wrapping up the homecoming season, and there are still some big classics out there on the board to be played. So I thought we'd take a moment to measure the power of the black dollar surrounding some of these HBCU football games. So let's take a look at GHO, which was last weekend, North Carolina A&T's greatest homecoming on earth. Their words, not mine. These are 2017 figures here, but GHO brings in about $9 million per year for the city of Greensboro, North Carolina, one of the biggest weeks of the year for the city. Now in Birmingham, the Magic City Classic is magic for the local economy. The week-long extravaganza generates about $23 million. For perspective, that's 2 guaranteed fan bases every year, and a lot of fans who spend an entire week camped out in the city. So an interesting look at how powerful these games are away from the culture, away from the field, but in their local communities. That's a quick look at news. Let's get back now to HBCU 101 with Jaleel Thurman.
Many know him as a visionary within the urban community. He's a jack of all trades and a master of them all. HBCU 101 is thrilled to talk with Morehouse alum, author, founder, and chief visionary officer of The Black Man Can Incorporated, Brandon Frame.
I like that. Thank you for that introduction. I wasn't expecting that, so I appreciate that.
Brandon, no, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having
But
me.
that introduction is small. It's minute to what you're actually doing within the community. But you're from Connecticut. You're
Yes.
from Windsor. From up north, up top.
A60 in the building.
Okay,
We here,
A60. But you found your way to the 404, the 770. You found your way to Atlanta, to Morehouse.
Yes.
Now, I don't know really many people from Connecticut that actually attended HBCUs. I may know a handful.
Yeah.
How did you find your way to Morehouse? Like, what's that story like?
I think it's an interesting story. When you think about Morehouse, my first introduction to Morehouse was Boys in the Hood.
Okay.
Right. So I'm watching Boys in the Hood, and at the end of the movie, Cuba Gooding Jr. he goes to Morehouse. So that's my first introduction.
Okay.
Right? So then my best friend, who's also from Connecticut, who also went to Morehouse, we were in the car, we were going to SAT prep class. And his dad says, if my son wants to go to any other college, he got to figure out how to pay for it because my money's going to Morehouse. And I had never heard somebody say that. So, the whole legacy thing, and I wasn't aware of that because I'm a first generation college student. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to college because my mom said I got to go to college. And so I was like, so I did this research on Morehouse, and I was like, wow, okay, this is a place that is built upon the idea of making black male leaders. And then I went on a black college tour, and after walking on campus, I said, man, this is where I got to go. Definitely ranked high above all the other HBCUs that I had attended on a black college tour. So first, you had that introduction with Boys in the Hood. That's the first setting, and then my boy, his dad, and going on a college tour, and I was like, that's it.
What was that experience like at Morehouse?
Morehouse, like I said, there's a lot of different things we have at Morehouse, but one of those is you can't just attend Morehouse, you gotta let Morehouse go through you.
Okay.
And so, like if you walk out and you just, I got a degree, I went there for 4 years, and you didn't really get the experience. Morehouse, I just remember the first day when we had Welcome to the House, and growing up as a black male in America, you don't really get the positive self-identity development in the K through 12 education system that lets you know that you can be anything, and that, like all the cliche statements, put your mind is a terrible thing to waste, or anything you believe, you put your mind to it, it can happen, right? You hear those things growing up, but we don't have the reinforcement in our educational system that allows for us to know that that's actually possible. But going to Morehouse, the light bulb went on, and then I can pursue excellence with impeccable effort. You know, I see the alums and I see the footsteps that I'm walking in, and so Morehouse gave me that sense of confidence, not arrogance. Gave me a sense of confidence that I, as a black male, can be anything that I want to be, and all the goals and dreams that I have for my life are possible and attainable if I'm willing to put the work in.
Wow. You know, when you were at Morehouse, you actually took that. You know, you were saying that, you know, it's not necessarily just being there, but it's like living through you and going through you. Mm-hmm. You actually worked within the community a lot while you were in school. And in one particular story, you actually were working with bringing kids to Morehouse so that they could kind of see positive images of the black man.
Absolutely.
Right? And one time you had a young student kind of reference Morehouse to the prison because of the fact that they were like, oh, this is it's not that, they weren't trying to be negative about it. They were like, this, I don't know, or I've never seen so many black men in one setting outside of a prison.
Yep.
And then that is what thus kind of was the catalyst for the Black Man Can. Like, kind of tell us a little bit about that.
You did your research, man. Like, I appreciate that. You know, I usually tell that story as opposed to somebody actually having, the research. I appreciate that. Thanks. But so I started a mentoring program at Charles R. Drew Charter School over there on the East Side, and we did bring the students to Morehouse, and so. MK Asante is one of my favorite scholars, and he says once you make an observation, you have an obligation. It's actually a guiding principle for my life. And so I made an observation that boys and men of color need to see positive images of themselves and need to have their stories told through that experience. And so therefore there's a few other things that happened after that, but then again, it's the catalyst to me starting the Black Man Can, because there was no place that somebody could go online and get all the positive images and narratives of what and the accomplishments and the brilliance of what we're doing across the world. And so that's kind of how we got to where we are now. Or that's a blog. So in 2010, I started the blog, blackmancan.org. Interestingly enough, I think God knew what it was going to become now. That God knew we would be here right now. Because when I wanted to do the blog, if you want to start a blog, anytime you want to start a blog or something, you want to get .com. But it wasn't available. Only thing available was .org, but that's because he knew it would grow into a nonprofit and digital platform. And so here we are now with that. Back then, I was just really upset that I couldn't get .com because somebody was domain squatting on it. But we purchased it, and since then we've grown, and we do a lot of amazing things across the country with all our programs, Building a Better Brother Summit, Daddy Does Hair Too, and the list goes on, Black Man Can Awards, and then we have this large social following, promoting the positive images and continue with our mission to celebrate, educate, and inspire boys and men of color.
And that's unique because we don't have that. Like you said, you've seen the observation, so then it became an obligation. And I want to dive more into that, but we'll do that when we come back, all right?
It's Jalil, it's Brandon Frame, it's HBCU 101. Stay tuned. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Black Man Can and the impact it's having on the community. We'll be right back.
Coming up next on HBCU 101. Welcome back to HBCU 101.
Welcome back to HBCU 101. I am your host, Jalil Thurman, and I have the Chief Visionary Officer for the Black Man Can Incorporated, Brandon Frame. Brandon,
yes.
The Black Man Can, what you're doing with that, what you vision for that. Let's talk about some of the programs and some of the impact that you've been able to have within the community.
We started as a blog and then it's grown. So our one staple program is the Building a Better Brother Summit. So it's kind of like a conference in a box. People will contract us and we will go out to different communities, schools, nonprofits, municipalities, and do conferences for young men. To date, we've done over 60 conferences across 13 states, impacted over 7,000 young men. We have a mentor network of over 350 black men across the country who descend upon a city with us to do workshops, be a keynote speaker. All the boys receive ties. They receive copies of the Black Man Can Journal, Define Yourself, Redefine the World. And so it's really, just a day to share stories and narratives and then let the boys know that the Black Man Can and hear the different narratives of how we've overcome or how we've turned our stumbling blocks into stepping stones. So that's one. We have Daddy Does Hair Too, which is an opportunity for dads to bring their daughters to an event and learn how to do their daughter's hair, just create that bonding experience. The Black Man Can Awards, our annual award show to celebrate black men and boys. And the list goes on. And then obviously we're creating digital content, Black Men Winning Wednesdays, Black Men Mondays, and the list goes on of different content that we're creating online to complement the stories and narratives that we share on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter pages.
And you did this because you felt the space, right? But along the way, you created this journal. And did you feel like that was something you needed to do for the young Black man or the older Black man? Like, let's talk about that journal that you have.
Yeah, so the journal, Define Yourself, Redefine the World, the guided journal for boys and men of color. I would say that it started with the idea of young boys, middle school, high school, because when I was younger, I journaled, and it was a tool for me to be able to process my emotions through written reflection. And so I wanted to create a tool, that same tool for other young men to be able to do the same thing, because growing up, you're not, as a boy, sometimes you're told, not to cry, not to have these different emotions, but we do need an outlet for that. So the first thing I thought, we create the journal, and then that would be the thing that we give to young men at the summit when we do it. And now that I'm 31, and now as a grown man, I see one of the quotes that bothers me the most that people quote all the time. They quote Frederick Douglass, and I was talking about it's easier to fix or to prepare. Yeah, basically, of course, I'm gonna mess this up, but it's easier to prepare young men than to fix broken men, right?
Okay.
And so, I hate that, because as I've grown into a man, I see how many men throughout the world, right, and throughout our communities need so much help, but people are just like, you're a grown man, you got to figure it out, as opposed to providing that support. Yeah. And so now that I'm in that space, I see that we need that. I always ask women every weekend, there's a brunch that women go to. It's a brunch, it's a summit, something that they have an opportunity to go to, and it's great. And then they get healed, they get restored, they're able to build sisterhood and share their experiences. And then so I'll ask, I say, where are you able to send your uncle, your nephew, your brother, your son to get that same feeling and experience? And they usually don't have an answer. And so as we've grown, the idea is how can the Black men can also become and create those spaces, not just for young boys, but for men, so that we can do the same thing, because we need all of us at the table in order to move our communities forward.
That's amazing, because I feel the same way. I feel as though we're in a generation now where there is always something for women, but there isn't anything for men. And I think that that's, like you said, like an observational obligation. And that's something that I've been brewing in my mind, like how can we create that environment? Because there's men like you and I that know other men that are doing great things, but can also uplift men that are trying to figure out their space in life, especially post-graduation. It could be a little tricky, or even 25 plus, it's like, yo, what am I doing? Or even 18, and just giving them the guide, like, yo, this is this is the path I've taken, this is the road I've been down. I think that this could be beneficial to you. So with that being said, you created a children's book, The Adventures of Coach and Little Dell, My First Tie. What was the history behind it? What was the thought process behind creating a children's book?
So I'm the co-author with Tanae Deneen Eskridge. She's based in Los Angeles. So I had a manuscript for My First Tie, and she's the creator of Adventures of Coach and Little Dell. Coach is actually her husband in real life. Okay. And Little Dell, she actually just gave birth. So she actually just gave birth to Little Dell. That was when she created. That was her even before she was pregnant. She's like, God's gonna bless me with a boy. It's gonna be Little Dell. And so we kind of came together. So what happened was, for me, in terms of creating the manuscript for My First Tie, is that we do the Building a Better Brother Summit, and we do this across the country. And at one summit, a young man, his mom had called and they said, my son needs to come. He's in 3rd grade, but he needs to be there. And I can't tell the mom, no, he can't come because he's not of age. I can't do that. Right. So he came, and he was really astute young man. And he asked me at the summit towards the end, he said, how come you don't do this, meaning the summit with my friends, which is the K through 5, or even he's in 3rd grade, so that age group. I was like, that's just a heavy lift, that age group. There's a lot more attention and training. I think you just need to make sure if you're going to pull 200 or 150 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, it's a different level of energy that you need to bring to the table and how you finesse and do your workshops. But he made me think, like, okay, we need to make a change. And so I said, what's the best way for me to be able to infiltrate elementary schools? And it's like a children's book. And so I created the manuscript. I was able to connect with Tanae and with her children's book series. And it was a perfect marriage of two ideas to come together to make the next book in the series, which is my first tie. And so now I've been able to go around the country and read at elementary schools and create what we've created. This is my first tie experience for young people in elementary schools. And then also expose them to positive images and literature, being Coach and Lil Del.
And the impact, that has to be immense.
Absolutely. I think it's amazing seeing, I got so many stories I could share. Like, I had a book signing in New York City, and a young man actually brought his book with him, and he shared with me his book report that he actually had already done on the book.
Oh, wow.
Right? Powerful. Or like, I was at another school in Boston, and a young man raised his hand and said, now I know I can be an author because I met you because you look like me. Right? And so these are, really important stories that I could share around just being able to have an opportunity to go into schools and read to students and also share the different images and the way the characters look. Like, the dad has waves, all these different things that kids pick up on. Like, that's me, that's my family, that's my community. So
people do pick up on the waves. Like, I don't have any, but I know people that get you seasick with the waves. So, so I definitely understand that. That's amazing because of the fact that we need that. We need that within the community. Like, I'm 27, but there are young men that come, that come after us that need those images. Have little cousins, we have little brothers, we have those young family members that could utilize that. And I think what you're doing is great for the community, and great for the man. I think a lot of times we have people doing things for the woman, and it's nice to see somebody being able to provide those positive images for the man.
When we return, we'll talk more with Brandon Frame about what's next for the Black Man Can and for himself. And we'll play I Got 5 on it. You guys stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Coming up next on HBCU 101. Welcome back to HBCU 101.
And we're back here for HBCU 101. I'm Jalil. This is Brandon. And you know what time it is. It's time to play I Got 5 on it.
So, Brandon, I got 5 on it. I'm going to ask you a series of questions that are this or that. And you're going to kind of choose who you got 5 on or what you have 5 on. All right, okay. It's real simple.
Sounds good.
Well, we're going to talk homecomings, all right?
All right.
Now, we know Spellhouse homecoming is unique, because it's a major one. But let's talk FAMU or North Carolina A&T.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Those two biggest HBCUs, right. So it's just lit. I'm gonna go North Carolina A&T.
Okay.
Wow. Just the Aggies. It's live action out there. Greensboro, just the people, the feel. Okay. I'm going North Carolina A&T.
There's nothing wrong with that because they big on that. The Aggie pride is definitely crazy out there. So let's talk yards. Right? You've traveled a little bit while you was in college, a little bit post-college. Tuskegee University or Alabama State University?
Oh, more Alabama. That's a tough one. I'm gonna go Tuskegee. I'm gonna go Tuskegee.
I heard the yards.
I'm not. Both schools have the history, but it's something about when you get down there and you see that history of Tuskegee, Tuskegee Airmen. Like, there's just a little bit of like that Black history, Black pride that comes with the Tuskegee University thing that I gotta go.
So let's talk HBCU history. Fisk University or Wiley College?
If my HBCU history is correct, I believe Fisk is the first HBCU, one of the first, in terms of foundings. If I'm not mistaken, so. But then you got the great debaters,
that's what I'm saying.
So it's kind of like it's tough. Tennessee, Texas, I'm gonna go with Fisk University.
Okay. And last but not least, we're gonna talk Greeks. Now, I know you're not Greek, but I know you've done a little road trip of yourself and you've kind of seen the atmosphere. Virginia State University or Winston-Salem State University?
I've been to both campuses, seen a little bit of the energy. I'm gonna go with Winston-Salem State University. And the ladies up there, they treat a brother nice.
Okay, the ladies up there treated you. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Now, Brandon, before we get out of here, I want to know what's next for you and the Black Man Can.
We'll continue to grow the Black Man Can, thinking about how do we turn the Black Man Can into a digital platform on the highest levels in terms of being able to have the blog and cover content, news and stories, create digital content, take our live events to the next level. So we're really just thinking about how do we, create larger scale events? How do we bring Daddy Does Hair 2 to large events? How do we create the Black Man Can Awards? How do you, take that to television and have an award show celebrate Black men? So I see how do we make the Black Man Can on par with, Black Girls Rock, Essence, in terms of a space for us, in terms of live events as well as digital media. And so just thinking about that. So that's what we're thinking through. And then continue to do the work that we're doing in communities. Yes, we want to grow, but we also want to make sure we continue to build up our young men. So we actually have a summit that we're coming up. We're going to do one in the Bahamas. So I'm really excited about that and getting out to Chicago and some other communities that we haven't been to yet, as well as continuing to serve the communities that we're currently in.
Okay, Chicago, okay. I like that. Now the children's book, for those that are interested in finding that, how can they find?
You can get the children's book at www.myfirsttide.com. It can be found on Amazon as well. And you can reach out to me directly, at Brandon Frame on Instagram and Twitter, at The Black Man Can, Instagram and Twitter, different ways you can get in touch to find out about all our stuff as well as purchase My First Tide.
Okay, cool. Well, Brandon, thank you for coming by the show. Thank you for blessing us with such that black man energy.
Yes.
Okay.
It's HBCU 101. It's Brandon Frame.
We'll be back.
HBCU 101.
Welcome back to HBCU 101. This part of the show is what we would like to call Who Got Next. And the purpose of it is we would like to highlight those entrepreneurs, athletes, or whoever that are up next in their respective fields. Today, we're gonna highlight Spring Break. Spring Break Watches is a Black-owned watch company that offers a diverse mix of timepieces that are designed and inspired by culture. Started by two fraternity brothers from Fayetteville, North Carolina, who attended North Carolina A&T. Their priority is to tie in their hometown roots into all of their watches, either by name or design. They enjoy giving back to the community and will always find an imaginative way to unapologetically invest in what they believe in. Visit them today at www.springbreakwatches.com. Well, that's it for today's episode. I am your host, Jaleel Thurman. It's HBCU 101, and I'll see you next week.